lecture tour to talk to me about cone beam CT.
Pleasure.
When did you get started with cone beam CT?
Well, actually cone beam CT started for us in 2006. We started with a low resolution ICAT, and then we bought in 2010 the Newton 5G, then came the 5G XL, and we do about 5 now to 6,000 cone beam CT scans a year. Now, from the beginning on, what we saw, everyone thought it is a dental system, cone beam CT. When we then moved from the low resolution ICAT to the high resolution Newton system, you see that suddenly we have another player there, and that's the MSK. Therefore, we needed a supine system. You can imagine it's not possible to have ankle imaging and so on a sitting system, and MSK is growing. My prediction is that probably in a couple of years this will be the number one, because once the orthopedic surgeons see the possibilities of cone beam CT and musculoskeletal, they immediately start to use it. And I show you some examples. Look at this one. Here we have a patient that came in with a fracture. We had normal X-rays and we had X-rays. We had conventional CT, we didn't find anything. We go for the cone beam CT, that's the fracture. See here? That's all you see. But if you don't have 150 microns, you never find a fracture in the scaphoid bone here. And that's the big difference, of course. You get a detail which is unmatched on cone beam CT if you compare even with the best multi-detector CTs we have today. And here you have an example after surgery. That's of course very important, because if you do MRI or conventional CT, you only have artifacts, you can't even see it. And look here, I can see all the turnings of my screw without any artifact around it, so beautifully visible. And finally, instead of rotating, you can also ask them to do an exercise. So you see how the lunate turns to the radius, because very often they ask you 3, 4, 5 different imaging, sometimes 10, stress like that, upside down, palmar view, whatever. And in the end you have a higher dose than a cone beam CT. And I give you another example. This patient had problems with the flexion on the left side, and you see that on the right side, if you look here, I have to go back like that, you see that the lunate is turning. You see the lunate turning? It's just rotating with regard to the radius. On this side, the lunate is completely fixed, nothing at all. That's what they want to know, and how they have to release it. So the dynamic imaging is there as well. So in conclusion, for cone beam CT, I think it's obvious. The applications, even the non-dental, are growing because of that high resolution. A supine system gives you also the possibility to do MSK, which is going to be one of the major indications. So your investment is there for the orthopedics, for the maxillofacial, for the ENT, and for the dental. Dentists start to refer to you for the high resolution. That's also happening. And of course, in temporal bone, I think that needs no explanation. It's blowing away multi-detector CT. Thank you.